Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode here at Toilets and Titles of our roundtable discussion. It's our next to last off-season, I would assume next to last off-season roundtable discussion, as the regular season's not officially starting until Thursday of the following week. So, we're getting close. The preseason games are over. Stuff is about to get real. And here to talk tonight about the NFL news that's going on, I got the Florida guys. I got our three guys here at Toilets and Titles who are joining me tonight to talk about the NFL news this week. And I'm going to start off at the bottom, actually, with you know him as at Dirty Jobs 21. We know and love him here at Toilets and Titles as Mike. Dirty Jobs 21. Mike, how are you, good sir?
Doing good, man. Enjoying the Florida lifestyle. It's starting to kind of cool down a little bit, so that's kind of nice. Getting out of that heat wave. George is looking at me like I'm crazy because he's outside all day, every day. As a guy who walks from AC to AC, I can tell you it's noticeably different. But I definitely am enjoying that. But doing good. Glad to be on another roundtable. Glad to be on again, getting ready, pumped up for the Blitz, man. Got half the Blitz crew right here. Missing Joe and Alex, and then we'd be full staff, and we'd be ready to go. So ready for that. Not next weekend, but the weekend after that, we'll be coming at you. We'll be live again, and so
that's right.
Be looking out.
So the Blitz will be starting week 1, Sunday morning at 10:30. Am I correct? 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, that is correct. 10:30 Eastern Standard Time.
All right, cool beans. And I'm going this way. I'm going this direction over here. George Reed, you beat me to the punch there. At George Reed FF. We know him as George Reed here at Toilets and Titles. Good sir, how are you?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Did my home league earlier today with Jason. We were talking about that a little bit behind the scenes. Came home, did some laundry, mowed the yard. Looking forward to doing this roundtable. And then from here, I am jumping right into House of Dragons and can't wait to watch episode 2. So today's been a fun, busy day.
I have to get myself some HBO Max.
Dude, it's worth every single penny. Every penny I'm paying is worth it.
And Mike, how's Toilets and Titles Next Generation doing there? Does she want to say
She's doing good. She's doing good. She's a little upset right now because she's supposed to be sleeping, and she probably heard my loud voice. So she's so she'll probably actually fall asleep right here listening to us talk about football.
That's all right. I will too. Finally,
she fits right into the rest of our audience, right?
Good girl, exactly. Hey, that's what we aim to do, is put everyone to sleep. It's getting kind of late Sunday night. Weekend's getting over. Everyone's got to go to work tomorrow. Joining us, final person joining us tonight is at BFT Jason. We know him here as Jason. Jason, how's it going, my friend? And he is a real astronaut, by the way. Jason, how are you, sir?
I'm way too big. If you've ever met astronauts, they're about like 3'6". They're like the smallest people in the planet. I'm doing great. It's the last preseason games are over. The next game is actually going to be real, and I'm ready for it, man. Like, preseason couldn't have ended soon enough for a Buck fan.
So astronauts, Jason's not lying. They're so short. Jockeys actually look up to horse jockeys.
I could have been an astronaut.
Actually, you're probably too tall. So I do have a picture of myself in the old space shuttle, and literally I have to sit sideways in the seat because think of like the smallest car you can think. You know, those smart cars. Like, those seats are big compared to the seats in the space shuttle.
Frida Bandito would fit in there perfectly.
Oh yeah, perfect.
I always say the future belongs to us short people. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's get the bells and whistles out of the way. All of you watching here, all of our great fans, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review because we deserve it. Where you can follow the show: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, Twitch, and Spotify. And When a Family Breaks is our second Facebook page. We've got Toilets and Titles over at Facebook. We also have When a Family Breaks, which is our sports memorabilia trading page. I really dig it. I'm going to trade on sports memorabilia trading myself. Check it out. It is a lot of fun. Go to patreon.com/toilets and titles. We have at least 3 levels of different ways you can support us, where we give you, different things, different incentives for supporting us each month. We'd really appreciate it. And the most recently added one, there is a 4th one, and I've been harping on it. No one's taken me up on it yet, and that is the $1 million level. If you join for $1 million, I will take you out to Red Lobster for some surf and turf and a Giants game too. I'll even fly in. Hey, you'll be paying for it all anyway. All right, and we have a wonderful website, toiletsandtitles.com. It's got all of our videos, articles, tons of NFL fantasy content, and NCAA content as well. So we're doing more and more NCAA work. We got so much content coming out, especially on the NCAA side, with both Nino and Jared really just pumping out the videos and the articles all the time. It's great. So check it out. That's where we've got all of our stuff. And guys, let's get into the real content, the nitty gritty. Let me get this out of the way over here. I was going to lead off with some good news. Got a lot. It's time. It is time, Nino. All right, man. So we got good news on the Buccaneers front. Who here is a Buccaneers fan? There we go, Jason, my man. We got some good news. Tom Brady is back, and we got some good news on Mike Evans and good news on Curtis Godwin too. He's going to be back fairly soon, I believe. So I think that team's getting pretty close. They're getting ready to roll. So that was good to see. Jason, go ahead.
Well, so, we had a couple more interior offensive line injuries this last preseason game. Luckily, nothing serious. A couple of scares, but nothing serious because interior offensive line's already kind of shredded for the Bucs. So it will be nice to have Tom Brady back there who can get rid of the ball quick. So that interior offensive line doesn't have to hold up for quite as long as they've had to do over the preseason.
Yeah. And it's Mike Evans. No, listen. I hear you. And having a quarterback like Tom Brady can just really alleviate that pressure that problems with the offensive line can cause. But this is a big reason too why I think we're all excited for the NFL season to start. Besides the fact that we're looking forward to football, and that is that if the injuries are going to happen, I want to see them happen in the regular season, not in a friggin' preseason game or a training camp or any nonsense like that. But glad to see Tom Brady's back. Any idea any news out there on Tom Brady as to what was going on, why he had to take that hiatus for a few weeks?
I mean, basically it was a vacation that was pre-planned. And I think what the speculation is from Tampa media here is he made a promise. He said, I'll come back and unretire, but I still will go do family stuff during this off season. And, this was part of that. I don't know. Rumors about him being on a TV show singing or something and whatever. The guy's been in the league longer than most of our viewers have been alive. So the idea that he needs those 11 days of practice is pretty laughable. So I think it was overblown, and the Bucs didn't handle it all that well, honestly. They should have come out, if it was pre-planned, should have come out ahead of time and said, hey, this is a pre-planned absence, that we had this on the books, and they fumbled it for sure. So it was, in the end, it's a story much ado about nothing.
Yeah. I hear you. Listen, I agree with you in my opinion. And I think, he could go an entire preseason without at least stepping on the field. I think stepping the game one would be totally fine. He is Tom Brady after all. And anyone here has everyone started drafting? Besides Frankenstein, which started which we started 2 weeks ago. Anyone else just start drafting this weekend in leagues?
Yeah, Jason and I did our home draft today. I got a 16-team league that is drafting next Monday. And I got another league that is going to be drafting on Wednesday with the Sirius XM guys.
Yeah. Has anyone who's been drafting yet? Have you guys taken Evans or Godwin? And if you have any concerns, whether you took them or do you stay away because of concerns over injuries?
So I have no concerns with Mike Evans. I got no concerns drafting Tom Brady. Chris Godwin, the only concern I have for him is I don't want him to be my wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. If I can have him as my wide receiver 3 or later, that's fantastic, but he's not somebody that I want to have to rely on to start week 1 because I don't
Right.
think he's going to play week 1. I think week 2, possibly week 3 is what you're looking at. They didn't put him on the PUP this year. The PUP list is first 4 weeks of the season. So with them not putting him on the PUP, they're expecting him to come back anytime between week 1 and week 4, which is, could be the start of the fantasy season, could be a quarter of the way through. So I don't want to have to rely on him right out the gate. So I've been steering clear from him if I don't have to draft him as my wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2.
So his ADP is 54, right? So injury and a week or 2 missed is already baked in because, last year this time he was going pretty early. The 3rd round, I think, is probably his ADP last year, late 2nd, early 3rd. So his injury's baked in because of the talent and the quarterback and the team he's on. I don't feel too uncomfortable drafting him as my wide receiver 2 because if I'm doing that, I'm taking another wide receiver pretty close behind him to make sure that I have a starter pretty early. And there's just so many good wide receivers in those middle rounds. So, if you do take a shot on somebody like Godwin, because the talent to be a number 1 wide receiver is there, even if he misses a game or 2, because let's face it, half is probably the wrong number, but a lot of these guys are going to miss a game or 2. It's just the way the NFL season is. So I don't mind taking him as a 2, especially as a 3, but really it's in how your draft falls, right? So I'm willing to take a shot on a guy who could be, especially for his value, a league winner if he comes out week 2 and starts tearing it up like he can.
Yeah. I actually did get Godwin in the league yesterday as my 3rd wide receiver. I don't remember what round, but obviously it really wasn't that early. But I got him as my wide receiver 3, as a matter of fact. I was happy with that. So apparently Godwin, like Jason reported, Godwin is expected to be back probably sometime anytime after week 1. We just don't know when yet, but he's expected to be back pretty early in the season. Evans sounds like he's good to go. He practiced this week. Mike Evans is good to go. So, all right. So let's move on over here. Aaron Donald earlier this week. Well, I guess, yeah, I think it was early this week, a scrimmage, I think. He took 2 helmets to Bengals players. Anyone have a reaction to this at all? Or it's just, I'm not a big Aaron Donald fan. I know he's he's the best defensive player of his generation. I believe that. He's a phenomenal player, but I've seen him poke other players in the eyes before. It's just stuff like that, going up into the grill, putting his fingers literally in their eyes, poking them in the eyes. I think he's a jerk personally, but something like this isn't a little too surprising here. Anyone have any type of reaction to this at all? Aaron Donald smash?
I mean, he should get suspended the same way Myles Garrett got suspended.
Yeah. And he hasn't been yet, has he?
No, because it happened during practice. The punishment is it's up to the teams. It's not up to the NFL. The NFL came out and said that it's a team issue. It is not a NFL issue. And so therefore the punishment will be handed down by the team, not by the NFL, which makes it completely different than the Myles Garrett incident. I don't expect I do not expect the Rams to come out and suspend him at all. He's not going to miss a single game. They may fine him, which would be appropriate, but they're not going to suspend him. That's just not happening.
I don't think so either. But yeah, so
what I will say is the league saw this. If Aaron Donald steps out of line on the field, I bet you it'll be harsher than it would have been otherwise. Because it strikes me as an unfair thing that he could smash some other team's players, the Bengals players, and then leave it up to the Rams on whether he gets punished. The Bengals get.
It happens every year. It happens
somebody
every year.
Hits somebody with a helmet.
Yeah, maybe
every year. Every year fights happen. Every year you have the opposing players grabbing your face mask and turning it and pulling and dragging during these inter-scrimmage leagues. Every year you get players who are swinging at other players with a helmet. Yes,
with helmets.
That happens every single year. It's not publicized nearly as much because this was Aaron Donald. That's the only reason it's being publicized as much as it was. But it happens every single year. It's nothing new.
If it does happen every single year, then I actually agree with Jason that I think the league should take action. It shouldn't be up to the Rams because he was using a helmet, not his fist, which I understand. Listen, tensions can boil up, competitiveness, adrenaline's running. I can understand that can happen, but when you start breaking out the helmets and swinging it at people, and I guess in this case actually hitting people, I don't think that's cool. I don't think it needs to be some serious disciplinary action, maybe suspension for like a game or something like that, or maybe even an NFL fine, depending upon if someone is, if they weren't seriously injured, just a fine. I saw that. But yeah.
Am I the only one that thinks of Happy Gilmore with that? Like, I one time took off my skate and tried to stab somebody with it. Like, I take people's helmet off and try to beat them with it. Like, that's all I think of every time.
I'd like to see that fine in the NHL.
It's at least smarter than like punching at somebody with their helmet still on.
Yes, it is. It's a lot smarter.
Yeah, that always perplexed me. I'm like, dude, he's wearing a helmet. Stop.
Yeah, this instance.
My hand versus your helmet. Let's see if my hand wins.
I think helmets they've won every single time. I do believe.
Undefeated.
Right. Yep. All right. So we had some here in Giants land. We had a scare. We had some scares earlier this week with the last preseason, I guess, from game last weekend. And it was Kayvon it looked like he was taken. As a matter of fact, I think it was on the roundtable or was it Monday night? I was doing one of the shows earlier this week. It must have been the Monday night. And when I was on with Coach, I think it was someone that, or a few people had inserted into the comments or texted that Kayvon was injured. I didn't actually see it at that time. And bad knee injury. They brought the card out for him to wheel him off, and he walked off on his own. It looks like Kayvon's going to be. It looks like he avoided serious injury. He had a bruised MCL, if I recall correctly, and he may be ready for week 1. So hopefully that's the case. But Ojulari also got injured as well. Hamstring. Azeez Ojulari had actually missed time this preseason, a few weeks. Probably I'm guessing like 3 weeks this preseason camp time with a hamstring injury. And I think this particular injury he suffered with his hamstring is not as serious, not expected to be as serious. But I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up missing game 1. But Giants are, defense needs to. They've been lacking pass rushers for a long time, amongst many other things, of course, as we all know. But a lot of Giants fans are looking forward to, IDP fans too, looking forward to what these two guys can do, especially, Kayvon, the number 5 pick. Ojulari was a 2nd-round pick last year, but he definitely flashed last year, and he's got some talent. Looking forward to seeing what these guys can do, but looks like everything was cool on the injury front so far with those two guys. So, anyone else have anything to add about that at all, or am I just
Joe? I go to you for my Giants guys. You're my go-to. I honestly, if it's not Saquon right now, honestly, I don't care about the Giants. No offense. It's just that's what it is.
How dare you? How dare you? It's all right. It's all good. I don't blame anyone. Believe me, I lose faith in my Giants sometimes anyway. All right, so let's move on down to Kenyon Drake. Let me undo this over here. And Kenyon Drake, possible, really not big fantasy relevancy, but there's always some fantasy relevancy. Kenyon Drake still might get drafted like pick number 15 occasionally. And for someone like myself, I've always been a Drake believer. Like any organization he goes to, I'm always like, oh, this will be the one. This could be it. Could be fresh start for Kenyon Drake. And I love that guy coming out of Alabama, along, I think, with Derrick Henry. I think they came out in the same draft class, if I recall correctly. And I always had like high hopes as this guy is kind of just like a different pace type of running back weapon out of the backfield. Never really worked out. The Raiders are looking pretty good with their running back committee anyway, their running back crew anyway. But Kenny Drake is gone. I don't know if he's been signed by anyone over the past day or two, or anyone have any thoughts or feelings on Kenyon Drake at all?
So he's still unsigned. He's had a decent career. I mean, he's made a little over $24 million throughout his career in the NFL. So I don't feel bad for him being cut. Like, he's still being paid quite handsomely by the Raiders to stay home and not play football this year. So because the money when they cut him was all guaranteed. So I got into a debate with Nate Hamilton, and I told him, I said, like, I honestly don't know if another team's going to pick Kenyon Drake up. And he's like, oh, what are you talking about? He's going to get picked up. He'll be in number 2 somewhere. I'm like, well, where? And start looking at teams, it's like, there's only a couple of teams that actually win be a running back for them.
You're breaking.
And
I'm sorry. Oh, the connection's going in and out. Yeah,
is it back?
Now I think you're okay.
Okay.
I think you're back. Yeah.
Love my Florida Wi-Fi, my woods. But yeah, there's only a certain amount of teams that he could go to and actually be number 2 running back. And the problem with it is teams are getting ready to start cutting players. So the market is about to get flooded. So I don't know if he's even going to sign. It's going to take somebody to get injured. There may be a spot open in Washington right now where he could probably fill in that was not previously there. But we'll get to that here in a few minutes. But, I mean, I just don't see him getting signed anywhere. I just don't.
So there's a couple spots. There's a couple spots that make sense. Maybe not that I think he has the talent, but like if a couple teams looking for some veteran, the Ravens make a little bit of sense. You know what I mean? Like the Chiefs possibly make a little bit of sense. Cut Rojo and see what they got in Drake, but I think like that's you get a better catching version of a guy who's not that great. I think. There's a small handful of, the Falcons could use some running back help. You've seen their running back field, like besides Patterson's been pretty terrible. I know they have Algier, but like he's looked pretty average up until this last preseason game against like the third string on the third preseason game. So, to me, it's like Ravens or bust for the guy, and I don't think he's going to get a team.
You know what?
Yeah, the problem is the teams that you're mentioning, Jason, don't have a whole lot of cap space this year or next year. And when you're talking about the cap space, like whatever teams don't use this year, they can roll over into next year. So if let's say your team's got like $9 million over the cap or under the cap right now, if you save that $9 million, you can add that $9 million to your total cap next year. So it's one of those things where, like, yeah, it would make sense for him to go to the Falcons, but why would it make sense for the Falcons to sign him? Are you think they're really trying to win games? No. Does it make sense for them to eat up that cap? They only got $10 million in cap space for this year that they can roll over into next year where they're probably going to be more competitive next year than this year anyway. So why, if you're the Falcons, why would you spend that money and eat up the cap that you can take and roll it over into next year? So that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make sense for these teams to go out and sign him to what he's going to want to sign for, because he's not signing for the league minimum. You're going to have to sign him for $2 or $3 million. And if you're a team that is not expected to be in the playoffs like the Falcons, it's not going to move the needle at all for you.
The Rams may be another one, especially with Akers coming off injury and Henderson often injured. They're a team that could use a third, but like I said, there's so many.
They got $8 million in cap space, and next year they're $4 million over the cap.
Oh, but the cap's not real, man. Like
I'm just saying, like
they're trying to win they're trying to win a championship.
Kenyon Drake's not helping them win a championship. Kenyon Drake's not helping
man. I don't know that.
Okay, Kenyon Drake's not helping them win a championship, Jason. I hate to be the bearer of the bad news there. He's not.
Le'Veon Bell helped the Buccaneers win a championship. LaShawn McCoy helped the Buccaneers win a championship. Like crappy old.
Both of those guys were a lot better when they signed with their teams than Kenyon Drake is right
now. Bell was washed for 3 years before he signed for Tampa and won a championship.
Anybody playing with the Jets is washed.
All right. We'll see what's going to happen with Kenyon Drake. I assume he's going to wind up somewhere sometime this year, and probably sooner rather than later. I'm assuming, just based on the amount of running back injuries we see. That would just be my assumption. But I've definitely given up hope that the next stop is going to be the one for Kenyon Drake. And it just needs that break. He was someone I definitely rode for a long time. Kind of like coach with Laviska Shenault. So Drake, Drake is kind of like my Moby Dick. So just like Laviska Shenault was for coach. But before we move on from Kenyon Drake, dirty jobs. I got a question for you. Miles Gaskins or Kenyon Drake?
Oh, Kenyan Drake by a
All right,
bunch.
there we go. That's right.
And that's for this full season expectations too.
Yeah, that's for eternity. Yes, we are here at Toss and Titles. We are a Never Gaskins podcast. All right, moving on. Something serious here, and this will have some serious implications, NFL and fantasy-wise, I would assume. Cowboys left tackle, Pro Bowl left tackle, Tyron Smith suffers serious. It's a serious injury. I think it was a knee injury, if I recall correctly. Maybe it was a torn ACL. I forgot exactly, but serious injury. He's going to be out probably at least until December, if he even comes back this season at all. Now, obviously, the implications are huge. That this could affect the entire Dallas Cowboys game potentially. With Dak, this guy is a Pro Bowler, proven commodity, such an important component to their offense, and they're moving pieces around on their offensive line. I don't know exactly who's going to wind up where yet. Who is going to be the left tackle? But I think they're talking about moving the left guard over the left tackle. We'll see. But you're looking at Zeke trying to have a bounce back year. He wasn't Zeke last year. You've got, they no longer have Amari Cooper, so they're going to be relying upon Gallup and Tolbert, Dalton Schultz. But the left tackle, and one as good as this, has such a potentially huge negative impact on everything else. Thoughts, anyone? There's Mrs. Mike. Anyone want to lead off on Tyron Smith?
Yeah, so he's got a torn hamstring, which is, it sucks for the Dallas Cowboys, but to be fair to the Dallas Cowboys, he hasn't really played a whole lot the last 2 years. The last 2 years, he's only played 13 games combined. He's only started 13 games combined. Let me rephrase that. So they're used to Tyron Smith not being around. He is one of the best left tackles in the game, absolutely, when healthy, but he has not been healthy for 2 seasons, and now he's probably going to miss most, if not all, of this season as well.
Right.
If I'm the Cowboys, I'm going to look up his contract, but I honestly, if I'm them, I'm trying to move on from him if I'm able to.
Yeah. What worries me, and that's a great point, that he has been very injury prone for the past few years, and their offense, for the past, has really, as long as Dak was there, I know 2 years ago Dak was hurt, but before he got hurt and all of last year, Dak was having a good year. The offense overall was doing pretty well, but they don't have Cooper, who I know he's someone else who's kind of known for his injuries, but when he's on the field, he's a difference. But he was a difference maker for the Cowboys. And Zeke wasn't Zeke last year. I'm just afraid that the weapons aren't there any longer right now. At least not proven. To make up for a loss like Tyron Smith, which up until last year, I think was a little easier to do that. Go ahead, Jason.
So I'm bumping up Tony Pollard on my list here a little bit. So I'm dropping Dak a little bit. I'm bumping up Tony Pollard a little bit. I'm fading Zeke, but most of us were fading Zeke anyway. It's not like you can't drop him even further. There comes a point where he's a value, right? But he drops a little bit more. CeeDee Lamb is probably going to be okay, and hopefully he gets peppered. But for me, Dalton Schultz, who was already up on my list, and Tony Pollard get a bump, and pretty much everybody else takes a small hit, and that's how I look at Dallas, knowing again that Smith didn't play a lot over the last couple years anyway, and it's kind of a sad thing as injuries to go with that talent. He just can't stay on the field, but that's some of why last year the whole Cowboys offense from a scoring standpoint was a little bit further down than they'd been the past. And like you said, less weapons.
Yeah. Yep.
So I looked it up. They're paying him $13.5 million this year. Of that, 12 million is dead cap if they were to cut him. So they're not cutting him this year. And next year he's got a dead cap hit of 8 million and his cap hit next year is 17.6 million with a dead cap of 8 million. So they could save what's the math on that?
$9 million.
$9 million by cutting him next year. So I don't know if they cut him. Yeah, I don't know if they cut him. Still having that $8 million dead cap is still a lot. But, yeah. I mean, it's something if I'm them, like maybe next year in the draft, I'm definitely looking at a left tackle. Like I need to get, or even in free agency, we need to get somebody in there. We need to bring somebody in to move on from Tyron Smith because you cannot rely on him at all.
Yeah, maybe it'll wind up being Tyler Smith. Is that the rookie offensive tackle out of Tulsa, first round pick this year, who was supposed to be, I think, starting guard? Could wind up being the guy. He is a mammoth. And one thing about, like, I know a lot of people were kind of like, breaking on the Cowboys for that pick, but I see Dallas Cowboys taking an offensive lineman, any offensive lineman in the first round. Me, myself, I pay attention to because that is a team that for a long time has had a history of identifying offensive line talent from the NCAA and developing it. So I don't automatically poo-poo something, when I see the Cowboys take an offensive lineman at all. I don't know. That's my thoughts on that situation there. But I hope he gets a full recovery. I never want to see anyone get seriously injured like that. And Coach is a big Cowboys fan, and he thinks that Tyron Smith is he's done. He's never going to be back. And I think he probably means for the NFL, not just the Cowboys. But I think that's what he meant. But he thinks that Tyron Smith is gone. If you look on the guys, there's like one of the probably the biggest news piece this week. I think was next on the list. I'm actually shifting that down to last. That's the of the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's the ugly. I'm going to save that for last because that might take the longest to discuss anyway. So I'm moving that down. Matt Araiza. We'll get to him a little later. Let's move on to Texans rookie running back Damien Pierce. He may be the RB1 in Houston due to his strong spring training that he's had so far. His performance this spring. Is it cemented that this guy's going to be RB1? Is it going to be Marlon Mack? What are your thoughts on that? Is it? I don't think he's been officially named RB1, but it looked like it was. Rumors are that's kind of trending that way due to his performance. What do you guys feel about that?
I saw a quote not too long ago, and it said that if he doesn't start as their running back one, then they're not starting their best lineup. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think that he has looked way better than anybody else on that field. It really isn't that big of a shocker when you think, oh, my God, he beat out Marlon Mack. Like Marlon Mack is good, but he's a beatable guy. He's been getting beat out by other running backs his whole career. He's always been the number 2 running back. So it'll be nice to see him get out there and be that bell cow because I think he really will be. And I think that's a team that's going to have to run a lot to keep up with the clock.
So I think, he won the job, right? Like he's going to be the running back one, whether that's a 60-40 split, a 70-30 split, whatever the case may be. We don't know. We don't know how Lovie Smith's going to run it. We do know that Lovie Smith's an old school coach that wants to play defense and run the ball. So they are going to run it, but I think their team is going to dictate that that's not going to be a thing for them because that defense is still not very good. Lovie Smith, the last time he was a head coach in the NFL's defense was not very good. The time before that, he had a nice run with the Bears, but since then he's been a bad defensive coach and a bad head coach. So I hope he turns it around. The Texans could use it, but it's still a poorly run organization with bad personnel. And they're trying to claw their way back out, but I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot because I think they're going to get scored on a lot. At the end of the day, from like a fantasy point of view, at the end of the day, it's the best running back on a bad team. So, game script is not going to be in their favor most of the time as a running team. And, again, where he's going in drafts, you can be comfortable taking a running back, a number 1 running back, 6th, 7th round. That's great. Short of that, decent running back on a bad team.
Yeah, I think I was just about to take him yesterday. I think it was like 8th round. I think I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm taking this. I'm taking Pierce, and my good friend Scott who's in, he's at Bakerstein in Frankenstein. I'm in a few leagues with Scott now this year, and he actually sniped Pierce right before me. Like,
again, it's not a bad thing to
like
be able to get a
round?
starter in the 8th round. Like
Yeah,
starting running back in the 8th
he was gonna be like my RB4, I think. I'm like, let me get this. I gotta try and get that guy. But yeah, and I'm not sure how Pierce is performing, and I forgot how he's performing in the receiving game. I don't know if he's really brought anything to the receiving game, but on the ground, he's been good. I had high hopes for him coming out of college this year. So, but like you said, Jason, he's going to be playing on a team that's probably going to be playing from behind on the vast majority of its games this year. It's got a long ways to go, but Damien Pierce is definitely on the radar for many of us. And I do like Mike was saying, I kind of like Marlon Mack has always been a pretty good running back. He's sort of like someone who leaves you wanting more. And if he can get that possible upgrade in Damien Pierce, I'm definitely giving that guy the shot to be the RB1 beginning of the season. All right, so let's move on to. I had to bring this up. I was a big fan of Len Dawson. I didn't get to see Len Dawson play for the Chiefs. That's even before my time, and I'm pretty darn old. But I love the guy, and he used to be in the 1980s. He might have even done it in the 1990s. But the 1980s, he was doing Inside the NFL with Nick Bonacani on HBO, and they were fantastic together. And then Len Dawson wound up being, actually no, they were joined by Collinsworth, and but Len Dawson was part of a great crew on Inside the NFL. That's how I got to know Len Dawson. But he was honored at the recent preseason game for the Chiefs. And I want to bring that up, but Isaiah Pacheco, what's going on with this guy? Is this just fluffery? Is this the real deal? Who are believers in Pacheco? And I'm not knocking the guy or anything. I'm just kind of unsure how to. I see news all over the place on this guy. Like I've seen a few articles on this guy's expected to be the number 1 running back. I've seen that he's expected to be like the number 4 running back. Any more intelligent opinions on this than myself? More informed opinions, I should say.
So I've been kind of high on Pacheco most of the preseason. I don't think he's going to supplant CEH as the starter in Kansas City. I honestly don't even think he's going to be the number 2 in Kansas City. I think that's going to be Jerick McKinnon, but I think he's going to have a role within that team. And if something should happen to CEH, if he does get injured, I think then Pacheco will leapfrog over McKinnon because McKinnon's more of a specialty back. He's more of a third down receiving back. So I don't think he's going to be the number 1 there. I don't think he's going to be the number 2. I think he's number 3, but has the potential to probably get 4 to 5 touches a game and spilling CEH. And I also think if something should happen to CEH, that he'll jump right into the starter's role and have a huge workload at that point. I think he's also the reason why I think Ronald Jones is very much on the roster bubble and may not make the team.
Yeah. Besides, listen, Toilets to Titles is never Gaskins. Me myself, I'm personally never Rojo. I don't like Rojo, but my thinking is aligned with yours, George. I could see him if CEH were to go down with an injury. I could see Pacheco being inserted to the RB1. Jason, you disagree?
If that team turns to Pacheco as their running back, they're in a lot more trouble than everybody thinks. Like every year we get a guy like this that lights it up during camp. I'm not saying he's a bad running back. There's a lot of film out there now showing that like he's missing wide. He's got skill. He's got talent. He's obviously playing at an NFL level. But you can go back and watch run after run of him missing the right hole, missing the right read. Every player does that. That's not a terrible knock, but like the vision isn't necessarily there for him to be a lead running back. I think if they end up turning to Pacheco, Kenyon Drake's getting a phone call. That's what I think. So
that's why I don't think he's going to be the starter. We're literally saying he's like the number 3.
No, but I'm saying like if No, but if CEH goes down, and they're relying on
Yeah.
Pacheco, I think Kenyon Drake gets a phone call. I think again, we talk about, we have at the bottom scrolling there, he had 10 rushes for 55 yards. I mean, look, George could probably get 5 rushes for 25 yards against some of these teams' thirds. You know what I mean? We're talking about backups to the backups to the backups. All of those guys won't be on a roster come tomorrow or whenever the cut down is. So again, he's obviously talented because he's playing for an NFL team and he's going to make a roster. I'm not saying he's not.
Yeah.
He could have a very important role there. I just think we hype these as a fantasy community. We love these super hopeful, undrafted late round guys.
And he's on the Chiefs.
And he's on the Chiefs, right? But that's we're falling into the trap. CEH was going to be the biggest star in the league because he was drafted by the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that's part of the allure.
Yeah.
That's part of the hook with the bait. He plays on the Chiefs. He plays for Andy Reid and Mahomes, and so it's always going to be enticing. There's been so much hype on Pacheco, and I'm not knocking him. I don't know what to expect. I kind of he's not really on my radar, but I do have it. He's certainly I haven't forgotten about the guy either. I am intrigued to see what happens with this guy just because of the hype over the past 3 weeks with him. So I got to say, and listen, it is Kansas City, so definitely it's got me hooked a little bit. That fish bait there. All right, guys. All right, starting quarterbacks. Geno Smith is officially the starting quarterback in Seattle. First of all, anyone else agree with Joe? That is me. That Drew Lock should be the starting quarterback in Seattle. Anyone agree with me? No?
I actually do. I like Drew Lock over Geno Smith. I feel like you're not going to have to worry about it long, Joe. It'll be about 7 plays into Geno Smith's season. And that's typically how long he lasts. A year is about 7 to 10 plays. So it'll be Drew Lock before you know it.
Yeah, I'd like to see Drew Lock getting a chance with and listen, I don't think Drew Lock is I don't think he's shown nearly ever enough to really to show that he's going to be an NFL starter. But I'd rather see him teamed up personally with the wide receivers they have over in Seattle and some Rashad Penny and and a good mind like Pete Carroll. But I think Geno West is probably the better quarterback, but I don't know. I'd rather roll the dice with Drew Lock. But Jason and George, you guys disagree?
Yeah, I think
not that it matters that much because they're not going to be very good.
No, I mean, in super flex, you may use them on a bye week, right? You would want one of them to be on your roster for a potential bye week as your quarterback 3. And if one of your quarterbacks gets injured, at least you got a starting quarterback, right? But outside of that, in a typical 12-team, 1-quarterback league, nobody is starting either Geno Smith or Drew Lock. They're not rosterable at that point. I think Geno Smith is better for the weapons on Seattle than Drew Lock. But, you're taking 2 turds and saying, hey, look, this is the cleaner turd. So
right. Not all turds are built equally, George.
I mean, listen. You can shine it up. You can make it shiny. You can dress it up. But at the end, it's still a freaking turd, right? I mean, it doesn't matter.
That's true. They I feel bad for Seattle, man. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
I don't. They're going to be. They're looking forward to next year's draft where there's a bunch of quarterbacks at the top of the draft.
Yeah, and it's funny what the draft last night that we had with what Matt took at least 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks, and
Yep.
And so I walked away with 1 quarterback. It was Daniel Jones, who's been the quarterback I've been going for as my second quarterback in Superflex leagues, trying to hopefully get a diamond in the rough there at the the later rounds, and I still had staring me in the face to choose from for a second quarterback, Geno Smith, Drew Lock, and that was pretty much it. I'm I just stayed away from them. I think I took 2 more additional wide receivers. All right, now moving on to some bad news here, and this is serious business. This just happened, I believe, today or last night. Brian Robinson
announced it was broke a few hours ago, really.
Okay, yeah, I saw it on ESPN a few hours ago, but I wasn't sure exactly when the incident happened. But Washington Commanders running back Brian Robinson was shot. Apparently, he's fine. He's in stable condition. I don't know much more about that. Like, I don't know if that means he's going to be playing this year. But it sounds like he's going to have like a full recovery. He will be fine down the road. I don't know what this is going to mean for his career. As you see in the note down there, does anyone know where Antonio Gibson was when the shooting took place? Anyone know? Was the assailant wearing a mask?
Him and J.D. McKissick wrote a movie. They're fine. They're a rock solid alibi.
Yeah, their alibis corroborate each other. It's very exciting.
Exactly.
So we have a statement from the Washington Commanders. I'll go ahead and read it. It says, we have been made aware that Brian Robinson Jr. was the victim of an attempted armed robbery or carjacking in Washington, D.C. He sustained non-life-threatening injuries and is currently being treated at the hospital where team officials are on site with him. We ask that you respect Brian's privacy at this time. So there's really not a whole lot of information that is out there from both the team or other sources, just that he was shot multiple times. I've never been shot. That's never happened to me. I've been shot at, but never actually physically hit.
George's in the Marines.
So I don't know how long it takes to recover from being shot. I know it completely derailed Plaxico Burress, even though that was self-inflicted and that was in the buttocks. But like I at this point, knowing this news, I'm fading Brian Robinson in all drafts. I won't take him. Doesn't matter where in the draft. Last round in a 16-team league, I'm not drafting Brian Robinson. It's just not happening.
Speaking of which, I actually took Brian Robinson with my last pick last night. It was a 12-team league, but I took him last pick last night.
Last night it was a good pick.
Yeah, no, I mean absolutely. But I will be looking waivers. I'll be looking to pick up someone else who I'm not going to mention in case some of my adversaries are watching this episode right now, and I know they are.
Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, there you go. It won't be Myles Gaskins. I'm going to take Myles Gaskins. My opponent should try to steal Myles Gaskins from me. But I do, prayers out for Brian Robinson.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I wish him full recovery. Want him to see him get back to the Washington Commanders, have a good career, decided against my Giants, but want to see this guy get back and look like he was looking promising there. A lot of positive things coming out of Washington camp for Brian Robinson. So, but some relevancy there for fantasy. We're going to say something.
Yeah, this definitely puts Antonio Gibson back at the RB1 for Washington. So if you've already been, I mean, listen, Antonio Gibson's been a good running back. The problem with him is he doesn't hold on to the ball. Like, I think he had 8 fumbles lost last year or 6 fumbles lost last year, something like that. He led the league in lost fumbles. That's what I know. So
if he running backs.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at him this preseason, like he fumbled the ball in the preseason, and then the next game he was with the practice squad with the special teams. So he's got to do something about his hands, and him fumbling is weird because like he was a wide receiver in college. He was not a running back, so you would think his hands would be good. So it's just either poor technique or poor coaching or just him not listening to the coaches. Like there's something going on there that he needs to fix because this is like his job was seriously in jeopardy. And now it's like he's got a chance to prove himself again. And he needs to take advantage of this if he wants to have any type of a career in the NFL, because if you can't hold on to the ball and you turn the ball over a lot, teams are not going to want you on their team because that's the last thing they want is somebody who is average at best talent who can't hold on the ball and does not turn the damn thing over.
Yeah, there's no safe situation to put you in goal line or anywhere else. Like you can't you can't trust someone like that. And it's a shame because he's a heck of talent. We've all seen it. Like when he's when he's healthy and on the field, which is not very often. And if he's not fumbling, the guy's actually producing. So he is. I mean, it's a lot. He's got a lot of good things going on there. Washington. Like if he could be the RB1 that he's got the talent to be, if he could actually put that on the field, Washington's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty dangerous team. In my opinion, I know people are out on Wentz. I get it. I still think he's the best quarterback that team has had in a long time. But which isn't saying much. I get that. I get that. But I think they've got some pretty good talent in a lot of other areas. So anyway,
yeah, I mean,
let's move on. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, like last year, Gibson, he had over 1,000 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. He had 42 receptions, nearly 300 yards, and 3 touchdowns receiving. So he got you like 1,300 all-purpose yards. He got you 40 receptions. He got you 10 touchdowns. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But they can't trust him because he can't hold on to the damn ball. Yeah. You got to fix that, Gibson. You got to fix that.
Remember, Tiki Barber was the same way. I mean, I'm dating myself, but I am that old. But in late 90s.
Oh, all of us remember Tiki Barber.
Okay, yeah. The guy was he was known as a heck of a talent, but he couldn't hold on to the ball until Coughlin became the coach of the Giants in 2004. And then starting that year for the last 3 years of his career, 2004, 2005, 2006, Tiki Barber didn't fumble at all, hardly at all, as far as I recall. And he really became like the number 2 or number 3 running back in the league. But, those last 3 years, he was phenomenal. But he held on to the ball, and the Giants could trust him. Made a huge difference. All right, let's move on to Steelers. All right, there's some minor news out of today's last preseason game for the Steelers. You had some injuries from T.J. Watt, Deontay Johnson. A little bit of a scare, but it sounds like everything's going to be all good. So I don't think anyone, Steelers fans and also IDP fans out there, players, managers, I don't think you have much to worry about. I think T.J. Watt is going to be fine. Deontay Johnson for regular fantasy players, managers. Deontay Johnson, I think he's expected to maybe miss game 1 at most, but that's it. But I think everything is going to be totally fine with those guys. Anything to add at all? Or?
I can be blamed for this. This is my fault. Like 100% my fault. I drafted Deontay Johnson in our home league today. That is why he went out and got injured. Like completely my fault. I will take the total blame on that.
He didn't want to be on your team.
Did not want to be on my team.
It happened almost right after George drafted him too. He was on the board for me. I passed on him. George drafted him, ended the season basically.
He said, "I'm done. I'm done with this. Cannot do it." No, Coach Tomlin came out and said that both injuries are minor and that both players could have returned to the game if it was a regular season game. Being a preseason game, he's like, "I'll just keep them out." So
I don't understand why their starters were in at all.
Because you only get 3 preseason games. Like last year, if you played your starters in game 3 of the preseason, nobody cared because there was 4 preseason games. So it's
last
the third preseason. It's the third.
There was only 3.
No, there was 4 because they. Oh, sorry, the year before that. You're right. It doesn't matter. Like 3 preseason games, you only have a certain amount of time you're allowed to wear the pads for practice. They've got a new quarterback in there that they want to get some game time with. Like it makes sense for these guys to be going out and playing in the 3rd preseason game.
Yeah, you know what? For me, I'm with Jason because if these were like second-year starters, I get it. But T.J. Watt's been around for a while. Deontay Johnson, I forgot what year he's in, but he's been around for more than 2 years.
Yeah, he's like 4 or 5.
They're young veterans, but they're veterans. Like they've been around. Like myself, I would take it easy with the final preseason game myself. But hey, listen, it looks like I get you too, George. I get it too. I get where you're coming from. Myself,
it's just they have limited time to put pads on and hit each other in the off season. And they're trying to build camaraderie with a new quarterback, and the quarterback that's trying to learn the system, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. Like you only have so much time to practice with these guys, and so if you only get in 3 games, like playing the first quarter of preseason game 3 is really not that big of a deal.
Their starter's been there for years. George Mason Rudolph is.
Rudolph
he played with those guys.
Listen, okay, Jason, I got one for you. I need you to pick a starter.
Okay.
Mason Rudolph or Geno Smith? Go.
Oh. The rumor in camp is that Mitch Trubisky's making Mason Rudolph look like Ben Roethlisberger. So.
Oh, so
it looks like Trubisky has wrapped up the Steelers.
He wrapped it up.
He's been the starter since he's got there.
I would assume so too. I never even got that. Oh, go ahead.
They paid him enough. You know what I mean?
Yep,
Like that.
they did.
He was never not going to be the starter, even though they drafted Kenny
Listen.
Pickett in the first round.
Trubisky's got a Pro Bowl on his record. He got Josh Allen to the AFC Championship game last year. Like, I mean, what more do you need from Trubisky? He's the Nickelodeon MVP. Like, he's got a resume that demands.
How much does he have to prove?
Yeah, he carried that Bills team last year.
I'm putting a mute on that just because I added this show and somebody had to stop that nonsense over there.
Mike
Somebody
will
had to
always
stop
defend Josh Allen. Will always defend Josh Allen.
With every fiber of my being, Joe.
Who
With
do you
every
think
fiber of
Josh
my
Allen
being.
had to be Josh Allen?
Listen,
Exactly.
Josh Allen never made the AFC Championship game until Mitch Trubisky arrived on the scene. That's all I'm saying.
Coincidence? I think not.
No. It's just like the offensive coordinator. What's his name, Jason? That got Peyton Manning to 55 touchdowns in the season.
Oh, I forgot.
Who was it? Was it Adam Gase?
Adam Gase. Yeah.
Adam Gase. Yes. So Peyton Manning was a great quarterback, but he never threw 55 touchdowns in the season until Adam Gase showed him the way. It's the same thing.
I will say this. I will say this. If Josh Allen was on that last Buffalo drive, or not Josh Allen, if Mitch Trubisky was on that last, he would have taken much longer, and Kansas City wouldn't have had time to go down and score.
Exactly.
Again.
You think Kansas City would have had 13 seconds left on the clock if Mitch Trubisky was in there? Absolutely not happening. Never going to happen. Mitch Trubisky, no. He would have sealed that game. He'd have delivered it. It would have been over.
That might be fair enough.
He may have sealed it to Kansas City, but who's counting?
It wasn't going to overtime. That's all we know.
Right.
I never understood at all that Mason Rudolph nonsense. This, like he was somehow in the debate for starting quarterback for Pittsburgh. It's either if you don't want to start Kenny Pickett because you want to give the young rookie, a few games to just get his feet wet in the NFL. I get it, but it's got to be Trubisky. Mason Rudolph made no sense unless they're just trying to be nice because he's been the backup quarterback for a few years.
I think it's because Mason Rudolph knows the system. He knows what is to be expected from the coaching staff and all that. But we also have to remember, like, Mason Rudolph got beat out by a guy named Duck Hodges for the starting quarterback for Pittsburgh Steelers at one point. So I don't know what the heck people are thinking.
Yeah. But so it's going to be Trubisky, and we'll see. The thing with Trubisky, too, is obviously Pickett's going to take over at some point. And I think the sooner the better, as long as he's ready. That coaching staff, that coaching staff knows what they're doing. They've got some decent weapons there, and you know what? I don't know. Maybe Trubisky, shows out for like 6 games or something like that, and then they make the transfer over to Pickett anyway. But I don't know.
No, they won't do it. So here's the problem that Pittsburgh is going to run into. They're really good on defense, and they have some really good weapons on offense. If Mitch Trubisky is even half decent and they're winning games, they're not gonna switch. No, they will not pull Trubisky for Kenny Pickett. I get he's a first round pick. I get you want to get the rookie some game time action, but if they're winning, which is very possible within their division and with the way that their team is loaded on. Like, they got a ton of weapons on offense. They've got a very, very good defense. Like, Mitch Trubisky has to go in and just not cost them games, basically. And if he can do that, they're winning and they've got a winning record and they're staring at a chance to go to the playoffs. They're not rocking the boat. They're not bringing in the rookie. It won't be till next year till you see him.
Yeah, be interesting, but it's a chance for Trubisky to revitalize his career.
Absolutely.
After being behind Josh Allen for a little while and playing, basically being the backup QB for that really strong offense up there, well-performing offense, he's going to the right organizations for a revitalization of his career. Those are 2 organizations you want to go to. So, but listen, I'm hoping Trubisky's got some good luck over there, and we'll see what happens in Pittsburgh. But I think they could do, in the situation that they're in Pittsburgh, myself, I feel like they could do worse with a quarterback to kind of like take the helm right now. I think you could be Geno West. I'd rather go with Trubisky. I think he's proven more in his career than Geno West ever did. And guys, let's bring it home with the ugly news, the ugliest news this week. Anyone else want to lead off talking about Bills rookie punter Matt the punt god Araiza out of San Diego State. I think he might have been a 4th round pick. So I'll just talk about it a little bit. It's a disgusting story. If you're not aware already, he was charged, he was alleged. There's actually a civil suit against him and 2 other players on San Diego State. There was apparently an incident where they raped a 17-year-old girl October of last year, and she's brought a civil suit against the 3 of them. And she provided a good amount of detail, it sounds like. And she actually went to the police. I guess they didn't have enough evidence to bring criminal charges, but they but in the civil suit, apparently the police worked with her, where they had her call Araiza. Araiza spoke with the girl on the phone, and it sounds like he admitted that they had sex together, and that they at least had sex together, and that he also advised her to get checked for sexually transmitted disease, and that but she had accused him of first having basically him and 2 other players of raping her. And it's my understanding, it sounds like there are other witnesses to this incident, because it was I think at a house party or a frat party or something like that. And so at least the 3 of them walking in, and her into this room, her coming out an hour and a half later, completely disheveled, apparently bleeding, earrings, I think earrings, and I believe a belly button ring ripped out, apparently some nasty details like that. And anyway, so he's been kicked off of Buffalo. He's been cut. Goodbye. That's it. And it doesn't get uglier than that. So it's something I didn't want to talk about, because I'm really sick of talking about these disgusting stories that that come out of the NFL sometimes. But this is stuff that also happens in real life too, not just the NFL. But it's sad and disgusting to read something like that. But the news broke early this week, and it was probably 2 days later, I think, when additional details came out, when Araiza was cut by Buffalo. So Buffalo did the right thing. He's gone. And I don't know. Any thoughts on this, guys, at all? Anything you want to add?
So it's interesting to me that there's not enough to arrest him. And look, I don't know what the laws of California are, because I don't live there, but a 21-year-old admitting to having sex either over the phone or via text message, I can't with the 17-year-old, which she was 17 at the time, so she wasn't of legal age. I don't know what the some states have that boyfriend girlfriend rule where most of the time it's 2 years. So if you're 18 or 19, you turn 18 and you've been dating, you were a 17-year-old dating a 16-year-old, you've been dating somebody for a couple of years, to keep it there's those kind of rules. And I don't know if California has something like that, but 21 to 17 in college seems a bit, because at 17 she's seemingly still a high schooler, right? So I don't know. It's hard to tell. What I can say about all this is that Buffalo, unlike Cleveland, Buffalo here stepped up and did the right thing and cut it and said, okay, there's some things bigger than football. It helps that it was a punter, not a quarterback, right? Even if he is a damn fine punter. And I'm not, I never want to suggest that another player would do this, but they probably would soul search a little bit more if it was something that a Josh Allen was, accused of. There'd be a little longer of a
true.
And that's just talent, talent in any league. But it was easy for them because it was a punter, and they said, "See ya."
Yeah.
And a rookie on top of it.
Yeah, just to start.
Yeah, and they didn't have much invested in him. He was a 6th round pick. So no, he was a 6th round pick.
Okay. Oh, I thought he was. I said he was. I thought he was 4th round. Maybe.
Yeah, no, he was. I looked it up. He was drafted in the 6th round. It's one of those things where what should really bother people is all of this stuff was known before they even drafted him.
I don't know.
I don't understand why you would go out and draft a guy that's got these character flaws or these red flags. Like, why even waste a draft pick on him? Like, I get he's talented, but like, it's more of an indictment saying, yeah, he's talented, and we know about these accusations of rape. It's not like the lady waited until he was drafted before she came out and said something. Like, no, she went to the police the day after the incident. So it's not like she's doing this for money or plot or anything like that.
Are we sure Buffalo knew? And look, do your due diligence when you draft somebody. But
there are because the charges are public knowledge. So either they did not know, and then you got to look at it as well. Our scout team has a really big flaw because somebody being accused of rape is public knowledge. Like, all you got to do is call the college that they went to and say, hey, tell us about this kid, his character. Are there any red flags that we should be knowing about him? Like, that's all just general stuff. That's not stuff that takes a whole lot of digging to do.
So and there were multiple teams. Nothing.
They're lying because there's multiple teams that had red flags on him. So if multiple teams knew about this, then that's really, really bad for the Bills because now they're not doing their due diligence.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that they draft him and immediately cut him if they knew. And I'm not saying that the Bills run off.
I just assume they didn't know because they did wind up drafting him. And listen, you said, and George, you probably know more than I do about the situation. And I'm just questioning in my mind, maybe they spent a draft pick on the guy, and maybe there were red flags, but maybe they didn't know the particulars. I mean, there's red flags, and then there's red flags. If there's you're doing background check on the guy, and then you see something associated, obviously, sexual assault, rape. Even if you just see even if there's uncertainty there, you're probably going to stay away from the guy anyway.
So let me say this, that the civil case was just filed last Thursday. Before that, even if the police were investigating, it may not be public knowledge because she was a minor. So there are.
It's not that she's a minor. It's that he was an adult, so it would still show for him. And it's not like these NFL teams are hiring crackpot security guys. No, they have some of the best investigative employees on the planet working for them.
Yeah,
they have guys that are former FBI, former Secret Service, former law enforcement. They're not going to Joe's Crab Shack and saying, "Hey, look, there's a security guy here. Let's get him to be doing our investigation of our NFL players that we're getting ready to spend millions and millions of dollars on."
I just don't know how deep you investigate in a 6th round punter you're drafting.
I guarantee you they're investigating everybody. I guarantee you they have a big board of who they want and they do investigations. So like I said, either they knew and they're saying they didn't to save face, or they have a really, really, really bad investigative team.
But I'm also going to say, these guys are all
because other teams knew about it. Multiple teams had red flags on him. That's why they didn't draft him.
I don't. Again,
that's coming from
you're
credible.
Saying that, but why is it just breaking now? Why wasn't this a story? It's not like this wouldn't have been a story pre-draft if the world knew about it. So where was the investigations from where was the investigations from any of the reporters or the local media or from San Diego State or it's not like Buffalo was the only one to be caught flat-footed here. The NFL might not have let him in had this allegation been an issue prior to the draft. That's
not true. The NFL absolutely would have let him in because don't start acting like the NFL cares about character flaws. They don't care.
Again, 6th round punter. The Bills, if the Bills had known about this, they would have just not taken a 6th round punter rookie out of San Diego State.
I think it's believable that they didn't know the details. I mean, in terms of the red flags, like I said, like I was saying, my point before is that, there's red flags, and then that is red flags. And there's definitely differences. It could be stealing someone's, Xbox versus, what he's alleged to have done. But stuff like that. So there's big differences there. And they, so I don't know. I would definitely like to know a lot more about who knew what and when and where. I would definitely like when it came to the Bills and the NFL. Because no, I agree with you, George. I don't think you're talking out your wazoo. I think you make great points, and I'm very curious as to who knew what, where, when. Like I said before, but I also see Jason's point of view where if they see anything like this at all, why even take the guy in any round at all? Why even touch that? So I don't know. I'd like to see a lot more. And hopefully more news will develop on that. What a sick story, though. But anyway, guys, it's been an hour and 10 minutes. We wrapped up everything for this week, everything that's important. Mike, you've been very silent tonight. Do you have anything important to say besides never Gaskins? Tell me now. Spill the beans.
Yeah, I'm
Go
just, I'm
Broncos.
going to stick with the old platform that got me this far, and that's the Never Gaskins platform, Joe. Just make sure you're avoiding Gaskins in all your drafts, please. And I'm with you on Rojo as well. Hard pass on all those as well, too.
Mike's got his flag firmly planted in Never Gaskins. I love it. It's just a reminder here. Just a reminder. All right, guys.
To save you people.
Hey, everyone, please, friendly reminder. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review because we deserve it. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, Twitch, Spotify is where you can find us. Patreon.com/Toilets and Titles. Please go. Please support us. We got different tiers just for a few bucks and a few more bucks and a few more bucks. We can help you out with tons of fantasy advice and there's some free gifts in there too. And there's also a free Frankenstank entry for you next year, our league, our fantasy league that we started, and our website, friendly reminder, toiletsandtitles.com. It's got all of our stuff. Mike, Jason, George, anything else to say before we sign off?
Yeah, follow the on YouTube. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 700 YouTube subscribers. I think we're only like 11 away. So follow us on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button so you get the notifications when we're going live. Hey, look, apparently I love hugs, which is actually true. I am a hugger. Everybody here knows that. So follow us there.
I hugged you in Canton. I can confirm.
I hugged Mike in Orlando, and I hugged Jason this morning before I left for work. So follow us on all your social media. We're getting ready to go. Pardon the pun, but we're getting ready to go balls deep into the regular season here, where we're going to help you not just win a championship, but we're going to help you just dominate your league. We've got so much going on. There's so much to look forward to. We've been grinding all off season, and we're not hitting breaks. We're going to keep going.
Yep.
We got one more, right, George? We got one more mock laboratory tomorrow night where we're going to do.
Oh, that's right.
We're going to be doing 3 mocks tomorrow night to get you ready for next weekend's mock drafts to get you ready for the season. So we got one more to go.
Jason, I'm gonna
videos now.
I'm gonna make an executive decision right here live on the roundtable, because it is the final Monday, and it will be our 4th mock draft lavatory, and there's 4 of us here. We're gonna do 4 drafts.
So I can barely make it through 3.
You're gonna work some overtime tomorrow night, Jason. So get that Artemis launch up. Make sure it lifts off so we can get rid of all this traffic in town. And we're going to be doing 4 tomorrow night at 9:00.
Get that Artemis up. Don't disappoint us. But I actually probably won't be able to make the draft tomorrow night because I'm actually going to be a guest on the Giant Zone tomorrow.
Nice.
New York Giants podcast. Surprise, surprise. They invited me on early this summer. They had to postpone once. I had to postpone once. And then, but I'm supposed to be on tomorrow night. Looking forward to doing it. 2 years guys at doing interviews. So I'll be spreading the word about toilets to titles. All right, guys. Everyone, we're out of here. Have a great Sunday night. Wrap it up. Looking forward to the NFL season starting the middle of next week. Guys, take care and have a good night.